Hello and welcome to Impact Advantage. And man, what month is this anymore? It's August. I'm just looking at my calendar and sitting here talking with Matt about our upcoming events. I will tell everybody that September, we're not going to have an Impact Advantage in September as it's looking right now. But we get back, and if I'm able to squeeze it into my schedule, then everybody you'll just get an announcement. Then we're looking at October, and Matt and I were just sitting here talking about doing an advanced recruiting techniques conference, and trying to figure out if we're going to do that out in Southern California as our next one, or Phoenix. So stand by for news on that if you're interested in the advanced recruiting techniques conference. Maybe put a comment in at the end of the webinar and let us know, and we'll make sure that you get information on that as well. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. We're going to talk about how to increase your close and show rate to orientation. And we're in the toughest driver market we've ever seen. It's only getting tougher. It's getting tough to get good leads, but it can be done. I'll tell you, we're going to talk about that, and I'll tell you more about some specific results that some folks have gotten, and I'll tell you some things I just saw happen, and how when just tweaking a little bit our process, the better results that the folks got, and now they're filling their trucks. So we'll get into all that. But as always, I want to, of course, Impact eLearning is another division of my company, and we appreciate the sponsorship and the support that Impact eLearning gives us. Actually, I think I make them do it. But anyway, just kidding about that. Matt, you can tell I'm in a mood today. A little bit bad jokes. But folks, if you have e-learning needs, I hope that you would all absolutely give us an opportunity to show you Impact eLearning. I think we're got the industry's leading e-learning system, from content to service to management and to accessibility. Also, HireRight. I certainly don't take lightly the support from HireRight and the relationship we have with them. Matter of fact, Matt, you and I are going to be in Chicago here in a couple of weeks at a HireRight users conference, and looking forward to speaking at that. And also, Ramsey MediaWorks. If you're looking for a great agency to help you to find the drivers that you need, you're not going to find anybody with more knowledge and or better customer service. And by the way, they don't like to be a vendor. Just a little inside note here. Matt does not want to be a vendor. He wants to be a partner. And so if you're looking for somebody just to be a service provider and a vendor, that's not going to get you what you want. But if you want a real partner that's going to help you and lose sleep over you getting the results you want, you ought to talk to Matt. And with that, Matt, hello, and you're going to talk to us about orientation before orientation. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing fine, Kelly, and thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure to be part of this webinar and to share new ideas and things that are going on out there in our world that we live in, and because it's changing every day. And one of the things, you're going to talk about orientation today and ways to improve the show rate. I hear that a lot from carriers that we work with across the U.S. and even into Canada. About, hey, Matt, we have so many people that are scheduled on our board for orientation, and then we have not everybody shows up for orientation. And so I want to talk about today ways that we might be able to give an orientation to orientation. And you're probably wondering, what in the world am I talking about? And so we have to put ourselves into the driver's shoes. Today they may be coming all the way across the country to your particular orientation and your site, and so there's anxiety that's involved with that. And there's some longtime drivers out there that might even feel just a touch annoyed just for having to go and be a process a part of the orientation, which is a very important process to the onboarding to a company, and it's certainly where relationships can start and to be built. But I will tell you that there's definitely anxiety. And so one of the things and one of the ideas that might be able to help reduce some of that anxiety up front is by producing maybe a simple video that just shows them, what to expect in advance. Maybe, and some of those thoughts are sharing some stories from the people that are going to be involved in the orientation, whether that be, a trainer. Kelly's going to talk about later on getting some of the other folks outside of recruiting involved in the process of getting your orientation rate, higher. But just getting some testimonials or from some stories from some of the people that are going to be involved in their orientation while they're going to be there. The second thing is maybe a little bit of a program update. What are we going to be talking about? Some of the schedules that are going to be going on. Hey, from this time to this time, we're going to be doing this. And here's kind of what we're going to go over. And it's just a kind of a friendly face. You've got to make sure that somebody has a good personality to do this. Somebody who's going to, be energetic, get up there, talk about the with excitement. They're going to talk about the schedule and some of the topics that are going to be covered during orientation. Another thing that may create anxiety for drivers is the places. Where am I going to be? Where am I going to stay? And if you have a partnership, a lot of carriers we work with have partnerships with certain lodging properties, then maybe it's an idea to do a walkthrough or just explain to them, hey, we're going to put you up at this particular place. It's comfortable, and it's very, very convenient to the terminal. We're going to provide your transportation. Kind of give them a walkthrough about what to expect after orientation. And then the last thing there is maybe just talk about some of the provisions that are going to be taking place. What's a day in the life going to be for orientation? What meals are going to be provided? What am I going to have to take care of as a driver? And just kind of, give a broad overview of what to expect within your orientation program. And I assure you that if you send this out, it's not going to be the silver bullet. But if we can improve our show rate for orientation by just creating this simple video, then it's a win. And I believe that this will help reduce some of that anxiety that might be there before they get there. And so just a little thought there for you, and hope that you try that. I'd love the feedback from some of you folks that are going to take this idea and be able to implement that. I'd love the feedback how it goes. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly.
Hey, Matt, appreciate it. And so let's just keep it rolling. And related to that, and folks, we do have questions that you can take, or let me say it the other way around. I tell you what, this ragweed is kicking my rear today. Got my brain all messed up. Please submit your questions, and Matt and I'll try to answer these while we're still on the call. So, things to keep in mind, kind of continuing on with what Matt was saying with, thinking about the anxiety that the driver might have. Folks, we can get jaded from the standpoint that we take so many recruiting calls, and we're doing this every day, every week, all year long, and we can forget, really the human side of this thing. Excuse me. And the human side being that, when a person has a problem with the amount of income they have in relation to the amount of expenses they have, and they need to make a change, then they need to make a change right now. They're going to start looking for an opportunity, and they're going to look for it full time. In worst case, let's say that something happens and the person ends up unemployed. In that case, you know, and frankly, folks, not pointing fingers at anybody on this call, but the truth is, if something happens and you lost your job, your company went out of business or whatever, but you're not getting paid anymore, every single one of us would become full-time job seekers. And we're going to continue to seek full-time until we have a reason to stop. So, you know, kind of keep that in mind, that they're looking for a job and they're going to continue to look for a job until they have a reason to stop. And the more people that they talk to, the more competition and risk of losing that driver that you have. And so that's what starts driving up no-show rate, is you're talking to people and they don't have a reason to really stop looking, and well, we've told them to you know, fill out the application on the website. And so, you know, if they don't really have a strong reason to go there, that's why you see a huge drop off from the number of people you talk to the number of applications you get. And still, if you haven't hooked them, then there's another huge drop off from those that fill out applications to those that actually continue in the process with you. And then there's another huge drop off from those that have been in the process to those that actually show up to orientation. And by the time it all gets done, you're spending a lot of money for advertising, a lot of money qualifying applications for very few people actually showing up to orientation. We've got to change that process, and here's how to do it. You know, on every single call, we've got to make you got to have two major agenda points. As a recruiter, my sense of urgency is I'm going to make that driver mine until such time as I decide I don't want them. And you know what? And by the way, I'm going to treat that driver like who they are, not who somebody else was. And I realize you've been lied to by other recruiters, or by other drivers, excuse me. And you know, they said they didn't have any tickets and they had a whole bunch of them. But this guy's name is Bill Smith, not James Andrew. You know, so treat Bill Smith like Bill Smith is, and treat him like he's a straight up, honest person, the type of person you want, until such time as you find out he's not. You know, so don't carry that baggage from one call to the next. And then secondly, give that driver every reason in the world not to call another recruiter. Folks, drivers I talk to, you know, they really don't like talking to recruiters. They really are looking for a reason not to make that next recruiting phone call. And so what is going to give them that reason? And would you all agree that once somebody has had a conversation with somebody, think about yourself. Once you had a conversation with your present employer and you liked what they said, you liked man, the pay sounded good, the job sounded good, the place you're going to work sounds good, man, that's what I want to do. You stopped calling other potential employers, and you were glad to do it. The same is true with drivers. If they hang up the phone and they don't have a reason to stop calling other recruiters, then they're going to continue to call other recruiters. And so recently I was looking at a recruiting department, and I saw all these, and it kind of goes what I said a minute ago. I saw the number of leads they were getting, and I saw the number of people that they said these people are supposed to fill out applications, and the majority of them didn't. But then we had a bunch that filled out applications and worked those applications, and even scheduled people for orientation, and the majority of them vaporized. I mean, just stopped talking to the recruiter. And I mean, they're like, what happened? You know, they said they were going to do it. I mean, all these people said they were going to fill an application and didn't. All these people said they're going to show up for orientation. And you know, you go to call them on Friday, and some, you know, don't even answer at that point. Others do answer at that point, but then they still don't even show up on Monday. It was a total wreck. And I mean, anybody's heard me speak, has heard me talk about this before. But guys, I'm telling you, this is the reason I thought I got to make another call on this. I got to make another Impact Advantage call on this, because we tweaked their process. And I said, folks, on the very first phone call, as you're talking to them, show acceptance, and be the first to show acceptance. And so, I'm going to talk with the guy or the applicant and say, hey, John, tell me a little about yourself, where you've been working, what you've been doing. And he's going to start telling me his experience. Well, how long have you been there, and why are you thinking about quitting? And he's going to say, I've been there about 1.5 years, and I'm thinking about quitting because of this. And then, based on that, I'm going to just mention the benefits of our company wrapped around what that driver is interested in. And we're going to go, and he's going to go, wow, that sounds good. Oh, that's better than I've got now. Oh, that'd work for me. And so, he sounds, it all sounds good to him, and you can hear that in his voice. He's liking what you're saying. And so I'm going to be the first to show acceptance, where I go, man, John, I got to tell you, based on what I'm seeing here, I don't see any reason we couldn't take this next step. Matter of fact, sounds to me like you would want to start on the 17th and offer an orientation date that seems like it makes sense. If you're right, he says, yeah, that would work, let's do that. Or if you're wrong, he says, well, when's your next one? Or when's the one after that? Oh, yeah, let's work toward that. And now, we've got a target orientation date, and now we're going to create a plan of action. Now, the other day, talking about this other group, the recruiter's like, yeah, Kelly, I've heard you talk about creating a plan of action, and I do that. And I said, well, so I'm sitting here just, how in the world, if they're doing the plan of action, and how is it that they're still having a lot of fallout? And so I said, what are you setting a target orientation date to? What are you creating a plan of action on? And she's like, well, the next step in the process is the interview. So I'm setting the target date that I'm setting isn't for orientation. I'm setting the target date to our interview. And so I'm trying to get that scheduled. And they're not showing up. And I said to him, I said, do you see the difference between a target orientation date and a target interview date? The target orientation date tells me, hey, we're working to get you started, for you to be in orientation on the 17th. Their interview is part of the plan of action. It is separate from the orientation date. I hope that I'm making that point clearly, because once this person went, oh, to see a target interview date is just that. You're still in the verification mode, and we're not really talking. If I hang up from you to talk to my wife, and she says, okay, so you're going to be interviewing with XYZ next Tuesday. That's great. When do you think you'll be starting with them? My answer is, I don't know. We're going to do the interview, and then we're going to, I don't know what else is next after that. Maybe a road test, maybe physical, I don't know. But, we're kind of working toward it. And then she's going to say, well, you better start working quick, because we're going back another $500 this month. So then I'm going to be like, I better make another phone call. Man, I got to hedge my bet here. So on the other hand, that same conversation, I say, hey, listen, I had a great call. It sounds really great with XYZ. And, man, the recruiter's sending me a link to the application to finish that out. We're targeting an interview for next week, but the target orientation date's for the 17th. So I'm going to get the application done. I'm going to do the interview next week. And you see where I'm going? Now I can feel like, hey, I've got something going on. I don't need to make a phone call to the next person. Guys, it is absolutely powerful. It's absolutely critical. And I recently got an opportunity to see people, first off, that weren't getting hold of that weren't setting the plan of action. The plan of action was just fill your application out and then we'll talk. Then I saw where they were saying, oh, I got it, Kelly, I got it. So we're setting the target interview date. No, it's not the same. And so I hope that you're really getting this, because the results that I've seen is phenomenal. Now the people are filling out the application, they're showing up for the interviews, they're showing up for orientation. I mean, how full would your trucks be today if everybody that told you that they'd be in orientation showed up? I find most fleets would have full trucks if that happened. So So anyway, some additional processes that help with show rate, and this kind of goes with what Matt was saying. I find, drivers do have anxiety, and the anxiety is, have I made the right choice? Am I going to like my fleet manager? Is it everything the recruiter said it was going to be? And well, what if we have the fleet manager or driver manager, dispatcher, whatever you call them? What if we assign that person to this driver this week that's going to be in orientation next week? So, so tomorrow, if I'm supposed to be in orientation on Monday, tomorrow I get a call from my going to be fleet manager. And he's, hey, Kelly, this is Joe, and I'm going to be your fleet manager. I just wanted to give you a call and introduce myself, let you know I'm looking forward to seeing you here next week while you're in orientation. And I just want to give you a call. Do you have any questions? How are things going? Because most fleets don't do pre-employment interviews. I have a couple fleets that, they're hiring local drivers, and so the driver's able to come in for an interview before orientation. Most fleets don't have that. So I need to start building this relationship before the driver even shows up to orientation. This helps with show rate. It helps with the work product that in the relationship that the driver manager and the driver have together, and the work product that they give. It lowers turnover rate as well. It's just huge. Then some fleets are assigning online training and for pre-orientation. If the guy's taking the online training, there's a pretty good indicator that they're committed and they're going to show up to orientation. So there's something, and not a lot of fleets do that. A few do, and there's another way to do that. It's something that we talk about with our clients, and a few of them do it. Lots of people talk about it but don't do it. So I think we have more people doing it on our system than I used to sell another system and nobody did it. I shouldn't say nobody. I know of one fleet that did. But anyway, love to visit with you about that. Then conduct physical and road test. Now, guys, I've always been, I worked at CFI, and we do it like a lot of fleets do it, or we did it like a lot of fleets do it, and that is Monday morning of orientation. You're doing your physical, you're doing the road test, you're doing the employment paperwork and all that, and the drug test, and then then about noon you're able to get started on the actual orientation curriculum. I do undercover trucker. I think you guys probably know that, where I get hired to go through orientation as a truck driver, totally undercover. And I've had several fleets that have had me do the physical and drug test, not road, but physical and drug test prior to showing up for orientation. And I've not heard that to be a big issue on other drivers getting it done as well. So I don't know. There are a few fleets, especially when they're hiring local drivers on dedicated routes, that will do road tests prior to orientation. But there's an idea as well. I used to think it would be a big turnoff. And is it difficult to get done? Maybe a little, but typically you're asking the driver, hey, where are you going to be? And you have a national account with the group that's all over the country, and so you're able to say, hey, well, if you're going to be in this city, you can do it there, and they get it done before they show up for orientation. I did have one fleet. I forget the company they used. It wasn't as readily available. And I was going to have to drive a couple of hours to get to the location to take the physical and drug test if I did it from my home. but I actually was heading to an event that I was speaking at in New Orleans, and there was a place there that could do it. So I told them I was, delivering a load in New Orleans, and so while I was there, I got the physical and drug test done while I was at that event. So there are a couple things that maybe you could even do that it helped. Those, to me, the fleet manager call before class, I absolutely, that's easy to do, and the benefits are over the top. The other two items, assigning online training is also very easy, but the conduct road test, physical and road test, that's one I wouldn't do it if I weren't doing the other two, probably. So with that being said, I mean, because I think the other two are much more powerful. And if it's easy for the guy to get the physical and road test done or drug test, then that just helps class be that much more streamlined the next week. With that being said, I haven't seen any questions pop up. Does anybody have any questions you want to add to us before we bring this to a close? I think Matt is probably still online with us here, and we can ask him a question. We've got like 4 minutes, and it doesn't have to necessarily be related just to this topic. I do want to give a shout out to Kent. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, sir. And I see George on as well. Thank you for joining, and Aaron and Eric. Anybody else have any questions before we bring this to a close?
Kelly,
Doug, I figured you'd have a question for me. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say.
Doug, Doug used to be head of the Trucker Buddy program, and he's working for a fleet. They're a very fortunate fleet. He knows what I'm talking about. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say right now we could probably talk about the upcoming ATA event, the Safety Management Council in November. Something to put on your calendar, but it's going to be a great event, and it's going to be here before we know it.
It is, guys. It's the ATA Safety Management Council Convention, Safety and Human Resource. I forget the exact name of it. I don't know. It's going to be in Long Beach, California, November 12th through the 14th. I am the chairman of the Recruiting, Retention, and Wellness Committee. And folks, there used to just be a safety agenda at that conference. Well, now there is absolutely, thank you, Doug, there is absolutely 2 tracks that are happening. And the one track is all safety related. The second track is all HR related. And you know what, on our next phone call, we need to have, I'll share with you guys a list of the topics. This year's topics are over the top. So much over the top that most of the presentations are being made by attorneys because it's that intense. We will share that agenda with you. Folks, to be a member of the ATA Safety Management Council is like $350 a year. It's totally cheap for you don't have to be a member of the regular ATA to be a member of the council. So if you can't be a member of and I'd recommend being a member of the full-blown ATA, but if you're not able to, the Safety Management Council is $350, and we have 2 meetings a year. One's a planning meeting, and that's a great place to be. And there's the committees meet there and all that. And then the second is the convention. And like Matt, thank you for bringing that up. November 12th to the 14th in Long Beach, California. Folks, with that, we're going to go ahead and end this month's webinar. As I mentioned, guys, I start traveling next week, and I don't stop until November 1st. Just gone every week somewhere. So if I can find a hole to stick this thing in, I will in September. Otherwise, we're going to put it off until October. But look forward to having you on the next one. I don't take lightly folks taking time out of their day to join the webinar. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.